Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to COD Zombies HQ, and in this video I want to talk about what I think Treyarch's biggest challenge will be moving into their next season of zombies in what we presume will be Black Ops 4. If you do enjoy the video, as always, I appreciate a thumbs up. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it feels nice to talk about Treyarch Zombies stuff again. Even though it is mostly speculation, the next Treyarch Zombie game comes out in less than a year, and we're actually going to be getting teasers far before that, so I'm really excited. At the end of Black Ops 3 DLC 4 Revelations, we got what is probably the most definitive quote-unquote ending to the Zombies storyline that we've had yet. Previous final Zombies maps for Treyarch games always gave us kind of a direction of things that we can expect in the future. In World at War's Darius, we really started to have a concrete Zombies storyline being formed, where the concepts of time travel and teleportation were pretty much introduced, which would allow for the next map in the story, which was Kino der Toten in Black Ops 1, to be set in a different time period in a different location. At the end of the Black Ops 1 storyline, where we blow up the Earth from the moon, that gave us a general indication about where they can take the story in the future, right back to that broken Earth beginning with Transit in Black Ops 2 with a new Zombies crew, which we'll talk about later. At the end of the Black Ops 2 Zombies story, we obviously have Origins, which sets up the story and dynamics for a new timeline, which continues in Black Ops 3 in the Giant, and obviously ends in the form of Revelations, wherein the Primis crew is sent from Revelations back to the Great Battle, thus completing the Primis timeline in pretty much a perfect loop. And obviously the cutscene for Revelations ends with the end. Now the question on everybody's mind in the lead up to Treyarch's next Zombies game, for just expediency's sake, we're just going to be calling it Black Ops 4, is that if our 04 character crew is truly retired, if their stories truly ended in Revelations, that the end is truly the end, and we won't be seeing any more new Zombies maps with Richtofen, Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai. At this point, it does seem likely that that may very well be the case, at least for the next game, where we won't be playing as the 04 character crew again. In terms of one of the most widely accepted fan theories kind of proposing that our 04 character crew will return in the next Treyarch Zombies game is in the form of a bonus Zombies map that will be premiering with that game, kind of like the Giant was to Shadows of Evil, where people are proposing that we will be playing as the 04 character crew in Mob of the Dead, kind of wrapping up that blip in the Black Ops 3 storyline that takes place after Zetsubo no Shima and before Gorod Krovi, wherein it's been proven that our characters do travel to Alcatraz and Mob of the Dead. We got a little bit more info about Primis's involvement in Mob of the Dead within the Call of Duty Zombies comic, where it was shown that there was actually a secret laboratory underneath Mob of the Dead where Richtofen was actually involved in experiments. And specifically, it's the place where the Transit crew is kept in cryosleep. So there definitely is a wider story to be told with the Primis crew and their involvement in Mob of the Dead. A lot of people are thinking that we will actually be able to see that with the bonus map for Treyarch's next Zombies game, but the big challenge that I spoke about at the beginning of this video is what will then replace the Primis crew. I get the feeling that if Treyarch does include the Primis crew in a Mob of the Dead remaster, unlike Black Ops 3 where we saw them in the Giant and then we follow the Primis crew throughout the DLC season, I don't think they'll do that same kind of thing again in Black Ops 4. Instead, it seems more likely that perhaps set in a similar universe will be following the adventures of a new crew established in the Zombies on Disc, the main map in the next Treyarch Zombies game. The problem is, outside of the 04, I don't think there is a character crew within the Zombies mode that is overall well liked and has their story told over multiple maps. There are Zombies crews besides the 04 that the community agrees are likable, that they enjoy playing as these characters, and that probably has to be in 3 maps I can think of, the first being 5, the second being Call of the Dead, and the third being Mob of the Dead. But for each of those crews, we only get to see them develop over the course of one map. One map and they're done. The other map that we've seen Treyarch try to craft a crew that only lasted for one map is that of Shadows of Evil, and from what I can tell and my own personal opinion, The Shadows of Evil crew isn't all that interesting, and I think if you were to ask people's favorite characters from the Zombies storyline, characters from Shadows of Evil probably wouldn't make the top 10. And even if you do really like the Shadows of Evil crew, I pose the question, would you like to play as them for the rest of the DLC season? I would suspect for a lot of people, the answer is no. The only basis for a new Zombies crew that had their story told over multiple maps that isn't Primis or Ultimus is that of the Transit crew, where we had the story of Stuhlinger, Misty, Marlton, and Russman told over the course of 3 maps. And perhaps now that a bunch of time has passed and we haven't played these characters in a new Zombies map in a fairly long time, you might have a little bit more positive outlook on this crew than people playing at the time of these maps' release did. When these maps were released for the first time, people really didn't like this character crew, which being the only multi-map character crew Treyarch's only developed is a little bit worrying. While we know of love and play in large part, Treyarch's Zombies games is largely due to the collection of enjoyable characters. Throughout the history of the mode, the mainstay of those 4 characters was Ultimus and Primis, the same 4 people pretty much. With the story of Primis coming to an end with Revelations, the biggest challenge for Treyarch in the next Zombies game will be to create a set of characters and a story that wins the fans over from the start, that is compelling enough and interesting enough to make us excited about these new characters and a new storyline and not make us wish we were just playing as Primis again. That's a very hard thing to do, and while Treyarch have done it before, and I think Mob of the Dead is the best success story of that, they've also tried it before in different scenarios and have failed in my mind. It remains to be seen what direction they decide to take Zombies in the next game. If it's going to be based in the same universe that we've been used to, where Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man exist as reoccurring characters in the new storyline with the new crew, almost like how Richtofen and Maxis did with the Transit crew. Or if Jason Blundell and Craig Houston kind of decide to leave the story of Ultimus and Primis behind and forge anew with a totally different kind of perspective. Now let's talk about the kind of new crew that I'd like to see in the next Zombies game. The first and most important thing in my mind is that they be set in the same or similar universe to that of the Primis and Ultimus crew. That preferably all we know about the Zombies universe and their storyline doesn't get cut off at Revelations and instead continues into Black Ops 4. I think that'll better help the community adjust to the new crew. If they're in the same kind of universe, we can always look out for Easter eggs and things having to do with the story, referencing back to Primis, Ultimus, and Victus. I know the community would eat that stuff up. One change that I'd like them to make has to do with the central theme of the Zombies season. In Black Ops 1, the general theme was a little bit of time travel and advanced German technology. In Black Ops 2, the central theme of the destroyed Earth played out in most of the Zombies season. In Black Ops 3, we have the general theme of the Cthulhu mythos with the Apothicons and the Keepers and things like that, so I'd like to see a new general theme in the next Zombies game. It'll definitely help make it seem a little bit more fresh. Now, in terms of the new crew itself, I think that the big reason that the 04 works is because they are a middle ground between a generally well-known stereotype or trope and a unique, complex character, right? Richtofen has that vibe of being the mad German scientist, while also having so much more depth as a character of trying to do the right thing in the Primis case. Tank Dempsey, the gung-ho American, Takio with his sword, the Russian Nikolai with his vodka, but they all have greater backstory behind them that makes them more than just a stereotype and into a really fleshed out character. We saw that in Infinite Warfare, what they did is they tried to use those tropes, those kind of stereotypes for, you know, the nerd, the jock, things like that in Spaceland, and I felt like they left out the second half of that. They didn't really develop them as complex characters, and that's in part why that crew is so forgettable. Now, I'm not saying the next crew should be based off nationalities or whatever, right? Like, although it'd be pretty cool to see a Canadian Zombies character with maybe a hockey stick melee weapon, cross-checking zombies and apologizing after he takes one down, but at least something that the layman Zombies player can recognize as, oh, it's this guy. Preferably, you want to create characters that players want to play as too, right? Characters that are cool and feel special in some way, not someone where you play as and you're just like, I really don't want to be this person. Like I said, doing all of that and doing all that successfully is very hard, and Treyarch hasn't always succeeded at it, but if there's any studio that I think can do it right, Treyarch is that studio. Either way, whatever they decide to do, I'm super excited for it. You know that Treyarch, perhaps unlike some of the other studios that have been developing zombies over the last 2 years, puts that time, energy, and effort into developing their characters and story to make them complex, likable, and enjoyable to play. And I think that's the biggest thing probably that sets them out as being different from the other zombies developers that we've seen over the last 2 years. I want to thank you very much for watching this video today. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Treyarch's Zombies is the only zombies that I feel like we can just kind of talk about this stuff for many minutes on end and not get bored, or at least that is for me. Hopefully for you guys too. I want to thank you very much for watching once again, and I'll see you with another Call of Duty video tomorrow. Peace out.